Hello, Mayday people and Foul Territory people. We should have you now. So sorry about that. Sometimes things just time out. All right, we are here. Let's get into the show. Let's talk about all the things coming up, all the things that have happened, and everything in between. I got some new kind of things that we're going to be seeing pretty regularly here on the show. So we're just going to get right into it. It is Mayday, July 16th, 2025, and away we go. And today, we will be starting with the news, but before we get into that, a couple housekeeping things for you. My Substack is up. It is available. You can use this QR code, or you can use I'mTrevorMay.com. Either way, they're there. We have several publications that are being regularly updated. We have the Mayday Report that used to be the newsletter, but now that is our custom editorial. For example, producer DK, David, has his first article on there discussing where he breaks down where the potential Emmanuel Class A trade would be, because he is one of the hot commodities being discussed here in this impending trade deadline. It's great work. I highly recommend you go check it out, and it is free. There's also a bunch of other things. We have a weekly newsletter that tells you everything you may have missed, not only from this show, but any other things that I'm working on making or talking about. We got some special Substack-only content in the works for there as well. And producer Henry is also going to be joining in writing some articles. So please go check that out. It is free to subscribe. And if you want to support financially, there's going to be a whole bunch of goodies. A few already up there, more to come that you will be able to take part of. And we appreciate you supporting Mayday and everything. And the whole team here appreciates your support there as well. But that's about it. So without further ado, let's just go right into the news. All right, let's get into some heckin' news. Quite a few things happen here going into the final week of spring training as we get ready. News. I'm going to try to develop my skill at getting quickly through these things and just hitting them. All right?
Let's get into the news.
It's time for the news. I got to bring you back over here, though. We are here. We are in the news. And first things first, there is a subject that I'm going to be covering very, very regularly, all the way up through the impending CBA negotiations and beyond 2026, that I call fact-checking Rob Manfred. And I need to come up with a little jingle. I didn't have time to do it with the sickness and everything. But I think it's going to go something like this. He said some stuff, but is it true? Probably not. It's Rob Manfred. So maybe we'll do that. Throw it music. Anyone at home can you do that? What other show does the host come up with jingles in real time? Huh? Name one. That's what I thought. All right. So first story. We have some more comments from our friend Rob Manfred when it comes to the impending CBA negotiations that I just mentioned. Okay, the day before the All-Star game on Tuesday, him and Tony Clark fielded questions, or they spoke in front of the Baseball Writers of America. Baseball Writers Association of America, the same group of people that vote on the Hall of Fame, and our biggest governing body of all the writers around the game, and touched on a variety of topics. Evan Drellick from The Athletic has been reporting extensively on comments that Rob has made recently, and the reason that these things are happening right now is because this is a foundational, argumentative, they're trying to set the framework for how these arguments are going to happen, and in order to move public sentiment one way or the other, because that is usually the strongest force in making these arguments, and they can sway players, or they can sway the ownership group accordingly, right? Where the fans are going is usually where one of the two sides has to try to bring them back or not. So that's how every negotiation happens. But that's why we're seeing comments being made right now, because they're just going to come up. They're buzzwords. They're little earworms. People like, it's dramatic, whatever, and it can get people talking. So they're going to just try to get people talking. All right. So here's what the comments were. I'm going to break them down, and what we're going to do every single time this happens is just talk about what was said, and then I will give you context on how things work and whether or not anything was actually said or not, what to expect moving forward, just so you can stay educated with maybe strategies from both sides, and then where maybe we'll know what might happen moving forward based on that knowledge. So, and it also allows me to not get so riled up and be more objective, because I was a player, okay? I was active in the union, and my father was a president of a union for like 30 years. So like, I have a very distinct direction I come from this, because I believe that workers, the ability for workers to negotiate and have some sort of leverage or some recourse to create an environment that takes care of them more is important. Now, what that looks like can change very wildly, left, right, but just having the mechanism that exists is important, because otherwise, then it's just one group of people has a bunch of power, and then there's nothing anyone can do about it. And that doesn't work out very well, usually, for the other side. So here's what the comments were, and we're going to start with Rob, because Rob was the first to field questions. So he was asked whether or not the salary cap was something that he wants, okay? So salary cap is usually a big no-no, right? It's a non-tender, it's a non-starter conversation when you say that phrase. So you're going to notice that Rob wants to stay away from that phrase a lot, and what he says lines up with that a lot. It says, when I talk to the players, I don't try to convince him that a salary cap system would be a good thing, okay? Technically true. There's a lot of technically going to happen today, so prepare for that. Literally, what I say to them is, I identify a problem in the media business and explain to them that owners need to change to address that problem. So, first claim, there is a media, they don't know how to make money off of media the same way that they have for a long time because of cable cord cutting, and because of the death of the cable television industry. Like, I don't know, anyone who watches movies or TV shows or anything knows all about this, right? And of course, professional sports are also having the same problem. They don't know how, like, Fox just isn't going to shell out $500 million because they don't know if the viewers are going to be there, because the viewership keeps going down no matter what they do because of the nature of the distribution. So that is a problem, right? That's a problem that they are actively working on constantly, and it's the biggest thing they struggle with. Players don't really care about that a lot, but identifying that a problem is important. So, okay. The second problem is that we need to work together. So, okay, takes two to tango. We'll talk about that in a moment. And that there are fans and a lot of our markets who feel we have a competitive balance problem, okay? So, very key words here. The key words here are, there are fans. So, one, he's like, fans know about this, and we are for the fans. Very nice to hear if you're a fan. I will push back against it a little bit, and for him to think of fans in any other way of, we'll give you more money for this thing, he doesn't think about them as this is what they want. He thinks about this is what they'll pay for. And those things a lot of times are different. So let's just be very clear here. Those are not the same, okay? And he's going to try to make them be the same a lot, and they're not. They're different things. There's different situations where one of them applies and the other one doesn't, okay? And then there is a competitive balance problem. So for me, I want to know specifically what the competitive balance problem is, and other than saying there is a competitive balance problem, Rob doesn't really spend a lot of time ever giving any detail what that means. What I'm assuming he means in this situation is the idea that the Dodgers are a super team, even though they just lost 7 straight, and they're barely in first place, and they've won 1 World Series since they become a super team. But I understand that, but at the end of the day, no, there's no sport in the world that has more parity than maybe soccer has more parity, but no, we've had no back-to-back World Series champions. We have people who are in the playoffs all the time. They are the better teams, that's true, but the champions are different all the time, and that you can't say that about other sports quite as much. All right. So, last quote he said, "I have never used the word salary within one of cap." Basically said, I've never said salary cap together. What I do say to them is, in addressing this competitive issue that's real, again, You can say things are real all the time, but you have to be like, because, boom, 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 still yet to see it. You should think about whether the system is a perfect system from a player's perspective. Perfect system's never going to exist, so I don't really like that word either. My only goal here is to not convince them of one system or another, but to convince them that everybody is going to the table with an open mind. Just keep an open mind, guys. Just keep an open mind, okay? Just keep an open mind. So what we're trying to do is remove this, like, the word salary cap is a bad word. He wants to soften that so that he can start using it more. That makes sense. He's a lawyer. That's what they do. Changing what language means in the context of what they're talking about is very important. And then we have Tony Clark gets up here. He's a lot shorter. He says, this is institutionalized collusion. That's what a salary cap is. Sure. It is, but like there's more I don't think people fully understand what a salary cap is, and I think we could do a better job of explaining that. There are no illusions of grandeur here in regards to what is worth hearing and what is the interest from the other side seems to be. As a result, players are being told as much. Okay, so what he's trying to say is, don't listen to anything they say. I think that is a good stance to take, but again, it's about nuts and bolts. I think people are like, yeah, we know. Why? Why? Like specifically, what is a lie? So like that's what I am trying to attempt to do here. I don't want to stay on this forever, but I do want to get through this point. So I just mentioned salary cap, and the conversations around it kind of are driving me crazy because salary cap is a very specific thing. So what we're going to do is I'm going to give you a clear definition of what it is and how it is determined, and that in itself will show you what the problem is. Okay, so salary cap or salary cap is a dollar amount set as the maximum a team can spend on their payroll. Okay, so it's a number that all the teams have to think of when they do it. Okay, we have the NBA and the NFL are given as examples constantly by Rob, the other North American major sports. If that is the case, okay, if we are going to model after them, we have to look at what they are. So in the NBA, they have what's called a soft cap, where when you go over it, certain amounts of time, you get escalating penalties. Does that sound familiar? That's the luxury tax, guys. We have a soft cap. They literally added a fourth tier for Steve Cohen, the Cohen tax. We have a soft cap, so if in effect that is a salary cap because that is what the NBA has. So there already kind of is a soft cap in place, so we can't act like that it doesn't exist because it does. The difference is, in the NBA, it is determined by something called BRI, or basketball-related income. Very, very important to pay attention to those words. Basketball-related income, okay? So then they take the BRI, and then they take the percentage of that, and that is what the players get paid. They also use an escrow system. So they put it into escrow, meaning that money isn't touched until the season's over, and just to make sure they don't accidentally overpay players. So this escrow system, like they don't even pay, like they want to, it's to protect the owners from ever having to have any accounting mistakes, so they pay only exactly the amount they need to pay, and there's no adjustments later. That is what escrow is, okay? The NFL uses something similar, but they have a hard cap, and their split is at 48 to 48.5%, which is terrible, okay? So I just want you to know, the NFL in general has the least player-friendly agreement. They always have, okay? So he would love those two things. He would love something like that for the league because they could set a number. But the difference is, it's about related income to the sport. So what happens is every league starts to remove different income streams from that BRI or whatever it is for the NFL, from that pile of money that goes into revenue sharing. It's just not reported as revenue, part of revenue sharing. And they figure out ways to do it all the time. This is constantly happening. It's happened over and over and over again. It was the major reason when this was proposed in 1994, when the World Series was missed because of the strike, they wouldn't establish what was revenue up front. They wouldn't do it. They wanted the ability to manipulate it later. That doesn't sound like good faith to me. Does it sound like good faith to you? No. Probably shouldn't. Anyway, so Rob wants this. Players rejected it back in 94, okay? Every league has conveniently left out two things when it comes to the salary cap, okay? Clear definitions of what revenue is, like strict definitions, and then if there's a disagreement, there needs to be some sort of thing that kicks in where you get to negotiate it again by itself, right? Or you get to argue about it. Those two things need to exist. They are always denied by the league because that's too much power for the, that's not, they want as much unilateral power. They just want to make a decision and not have to worry about what the players think as much as possible because they're business owners. And then two, there's never any financial transparency, meaning they don't let anyone, like they just go, it's this number. And you're like, oh, can we see the books to see if that number's true? Like, no, it's literally a trust me, bro system. They're just like, trust us. We care about you. Trust us. This is the number. What else is there? I just gave you the number. What do you mean? Oh, you want to look at the books? Nah, you don't need that. Just believe me. What? That literally sets it up to it takes one person being like, hey, we could pull this out, and then no one can verify anything. What's the point? It's just really easily manipulated. And when money is what everyone cares about, that's what happens. So that is what a salary cap is, and that is why players don't want it, right? There is probably adjustments to be made. Deferments probably do need to be looked at. I think that a lot of people agree with that. Deferments are kind of being taken advantage of now. That's where we should say. Hopefully the arguments go there, but what we're going to see is Rob using deferments to make the case that salary cap's a good thing. And they're not the same thing because deferments don't even go on your salary cap anyways. So like, he's going to say fans talking about deferments means they want a salary cap, and that just doesn't make any sense and isn't true. So you're going to hear that connection made a lot. Pay attention to it. I have a proposal, though, okay? This is how a salary cap will work. And this last part I'm going to say about this. It needs to, one, come with a high salary floor. We just need a minimum because the whole point is competitive balance. So Bob Nutting needs to be able to not run his place like a corner grocery store and run it like a professional sports team. And then two, the definition of what revenue needs to be clearly defined. And if there is a dispute, there needs to be a third-party system for bringing that into it. So you have an arbitrator, which honestly, most of the time, that arbiter will probably just side with the league, but you gotta have recourse so the players can say, hey, we think this should be included in revenue, and then they can go from there. So they need both those things. Three, a third party needs to audit the league's financials every year to verify that the revenue numbers being reported are true, right? The players need to know what the numbers are. Even if it's limited and some other third party does it, the players aren't like rooting around in the financials. Someone needs to, and it needs to be verifiable. It needs to be unbiased and third party. Now, I don't know if that's possible in this world anymore either, but it would be a step in the right direction. And the last thing is, the last part of that to get a salary cap is, I would say, Rob Manfred is salaries capped at $2 million per year, including bonuses, because Rob Manfred made $18.5 million last year, which is more than like 90% of the league, at least. That's a ballpark number. But he made almost $20 million a year. So if you want to save some money, guys, I found somewhere. Just saying. Anyway, what do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments. All right, let's get into more news here. With the draft, we had the 2025 draft, and there were some really interesting things happening at the top of this draft. It was almost as crazy as the NBA draft this year. Cooper Flag to the Mavericks. What were the chances? Really high, evidently. All right. First things first, Nationals and Angels surprised a lot of people with the first two draft picks. So let's talk about them. The Nationals were widely expected to take Ethan Holiday, brother of Jackson Holiday, a son of Matt Holiday, to be the one-of-one power hitting infielder. They need that, right, over there. A second baseman would be great. Or LSU left-hander, Cade Anderson, who was unanimously in pretty much everyone's draft board as the top pitcher available in the draft after a great season, national championship, so on and so forth. He's been great. But instead, they went with Eli Willits, a 17-year-old high school shortstop. who is the third youngest person to ever be drafted, which was pretty cool, behind Ken Griffey Jr., and a man named Tim Foley, which I don't know who that is, but that he was very young when he was drafted. The Nationals said, we think he's the best hitter in the draft and the best fielder in the draft, a.k.a. the best player. And they're very happy with their pick. He was the number 5 prospect, so it's not like Willits was a crazy stretch. I think 1 of 1 is usually, people are used to it being a foregone conclusion. So for it to kind of switch up is weird. But I think the big one with the crazy pick was notorious pitching developer, the LA Angels, taking Tyler Bremner, who was ranked number 18. He was the 6th highest rated pitcher. They took him with the 2nd pick out of UC Santa Barbara. He's a big righty, throws real hard. And that cleared the way for the Seattle Mariners, who had the 3rd pick, to take the guy we just mentioned, Cade Anderson. So the team that is terrible at developing pitching, or at least selecting pitching, went and got the power arm, and then the guy who's more polished went to the Mariners, who is usually good at putting pitching together. Now, we'll see Bremner very quickly into the big leagues. That is kind of the LA's MO at this point. They're known for just rushing people up. And it seems like that might be happening once again. So, very, very interesting that Cade Anderson then got to drop to the Mariners as a local Seattleite. I don't hate it for us, but just thought it was an interesting approach to the draft, and it's just, I don't know, it's LA Angels. There's something happening. It just feels like, you know how there's some places that, like, if the Rays drafted him second, you'd be like, what do they know? But when the Angels draft him, you're like, are they guessing again? Like, that's kind of the vibe I'm getting, and I'm hoping not, because I would love for the Angels to become more of a powerhouse. It just hasn't worked out yet. But I think Neto was a hit. I think going and getting Hoppy was a hit. I think Shanuel was a solid player. So who knows? We could all be wrong. I hope we are. I hope they're both studs. I hope all these guys are great, but very interesting that this happened and pretty amazing. Speaking of Ethan Holiday, he actually ended up going 4th to his dad's old team, the Colorado Rockies. Now he is a hitter. So congratulations, man. You get to go hit in Coors. He is the first ever first rounder drafted by his dad's first team, which is cool. I thought that would happen more often because there's been a lot of legacies in the MLB, but it's the first time it's ever happened. He was going to be first. I don't think there's a huge difference between 1st and 4th, frankly, and I think that he's going to have a lot of success there. So congratulations to Ethan, and congratulations to the Jackson family. Must be nice to be that good have that many people that good at that many things. So, moving on. Let's get into some home run derby highlights, because it was pretty lit as well, and there was a lot going on there. So, as we all know, big dumper, Cal Raleigh takes the home run derby. He is also the current home run leader. We're going to do some crazy home run derby stats later in the show, so stay tuned for that. But he's the first catcher ever to win a home run derby, which is surprising, frankly. I thought Piazza maybe would have gotten one, but I can also see there's probably not been that many catchers in. And he became the champion when he outlasted Junior Caminero, the monster Junior Caminero. 18-15 in the final round. Raleigh's dad, Todd, pitched to him. His little brother, Todd Jr., caught, which I thought was awesome. Also, I thought it was awesome that Todd Jr. was most excited to meet Livy Dunn. We will get into that in a minute, too. But just shows how the internet works these days. And it was overall pretty good, though it was pretty long. And I have some ideas for how to fix it or make it maybe a little shorter. But we had a 513-foot home run from O'Neal Cruz, which no one was surprised by. He also hit one of the hardest home runs ever, only behind Stanton and Judge, of all people, because of course. And Jazz Chisholm hit, I think, the lowest total in a 40 in one of these timed rounds with 3. But he did look like he would like to be there, so there's that. And another big story from this from this thing was the first round of my guy, Brent Rooker. Did he get snubbed for moving on to the next round? As you know, because everyone watched it, right? All 8 guys kind of went in a not round robin. They all just kind of went in order, and the top 4 numbers moved on, and then they matched up, went head to head. I like that a little bit better. 4th place was Raleigh, and 5th place was Brent Rooker. Interestingly enough, they had to go, because they tied, they hit the same number of home runs, they had to go to longest distance. And according to Hawkeye and StatCast, we have Cal Raleigh's traveled 470.61 feet, and Brent Rooker's traveled 470.53 feet, which, I did the math for you, that is 0.96 inches. So Cal Raleigh hit his home run 1 inch farther, less than 1 inch farther. That's nuts. And then he went on to win it. Many people are like, conspiracy theorists, it's rigged, da-da-da, you could just bump that number up, whatever. Okay, it's the home run derby, right? Is it a good story? Sure. But I think Brent Rooker also moving forward is also a good story. So I'm not looking too far into it, but it is a little bit odd. And Brent said some interesting things. He said, they told me before I went up there I could take 2 pitches because he was a little bit confused about the format. I didn't know they told me there were only 40 balls already in the crate. So I took 2 pitches that didn't count, but then went to do the round. There was only 38 remaining. So we got down to having 2 pitches with 5 seconds left, and they're out of baseballs. Interesting. So what he's saying is he could have hit another one, and the rules weren't that clear beforehand, which is also something that commonly happens with this event. So feel bad for Brent. It's tough, but also him being out early means we got a whole bunch of tweets from him. So we will be getting into that in just a moment. But before we do that, quick word from the guys over at Foul Territory.
Scott, you have a Built Rewards card, right?
I do, Kratz. I pay a lot of money in rent, and now I get something for that. There's no cost to join, and just by paying rent, you unlock flexible points that can be transferred to your favorite hotels and airlines, a future rent payment, your next Lyft ride, and much more. When you pay rent through Built, you unlock 2 powerful benefits. First, you earn one of the industry's most valuable points on rent every month. No matter where you live or where your landlord is, your rent now works for you, and you gain access to exclusive neighborhood benefits in your city. Built's neighborhood benefits are things like extra points on dining out, complimentary post-workout shakes, and much more. Unique experiences that only Built members can access. And when you're ready to travel, Built points can be converted to your favorite miles and hotel points around the world, meaning your rent can literally take you places. So if you're not earning points on rent, my question is, what are you waiting for? Start paying rent through Built and take advantage of your neighborhood benefits by going to joinbuilt.com/foul. That's joinbilt.com/FOUL. Make sure to use our URL so that they know we sent you.
Start paying your rent through Built and take advantage of your neighborhood benefits by going to joinbuilt.com/foul. That is joinbuilt.com/foul. All right, let's talk about the game, guys. Let's talk about the All-Star game itself. A lot of highlights, a lot of fun things. We got our first ever home run swing off to bring it all together there at the end. Because we don't like extra innings. I actually have a good breakdown of the All-Star game that I will finish with here today, so we'll talk about that in a second. But Kyle Schwarber ends up bringing the championship home for the NL All-Star team with a 4-3 homer edge. So anyone who doesn't know, the rule changed in 2022. This is the first time we've actually had the swing-off go into extras, which is pretty cool. And each team picks their 3 best hitters. Each one of those guys gets 3 swings, and the total number of home runs wins. Okay. So what actually happened was Schwarber was the second hitter. He hit, I believe he hit 3 to take them to 4 total. Junior Cabanero needed to hit 1 of his 3 in order to keep it tied, and he ended up not hitting 1 at all, and so it never actually got to the 3rd round, which was then going to be Pete Alonso, which I think Pete Alonso probably would have brought it home as well. Now, if you're noticing, no Shohei Ohtani, no Aaron Judge. Both guys were already out of the game and on their way probably home. We had no Vlad Guerrero Jr., no Big Dumper. Like, there's a bunch of guys who probably could have been good on both sides that just weren't chosen because it's still the All-Star game, and it's still not necessary that we exhaust everybody in order to get the game done, right? So, again, that's a whole nother thing we got to talk about in a minute. But it was pretty awesome. Pretty awesome either way, and I think this is a great change to the game, and I like it. I like the shootout idea. I like a bunch of pressure behind one swing. That is what baseball is all about, so the more you can mimic that, the better. The ABS system was also used in this All-Star game, and it was used 5 times. Now, if you're not familiar with the ABS system, it is the challenge system that's going to end up going into probably the major leagues next year, where you get 3 challenges a game, and if you're wrong, you lose it, and you get it right, you get it back, right? Just like challenges are of instant replay. It's very quick, but the 5 were Cal Raleigh and Tarek Skubal got Manny Machado with an 0-2 in the first inning. That's where this little smile is coming from, and Tarek Skubal had a great time with the game, which he always has a great time, and we get to watch him again this Sunday Night Baseball. Tarek Skubal, probably again. I don't think that's official yet, but I hope so. We're hoping, fingers crossed, against Texas. And then the second one was Jacob Wilson, successfully challenged a strike call from Mackenzie Gore, because of course he did. He's got a great idea of the zone. Alejandro Kirk got one with Aroldis Chapman against Brandon Donovan. Edwin Diaz got one against Randy in the ninth, which was a big one. And then Kyle Stowers was wrong on his third strike. So the people who challenged were right 4 of the 5 times. And I just can't help notice, but the guy with the least amount of service time of all these people was the guy that was wrong. No shade to Kyle Stowers, but get that experience up, my guy. We also had people mic'd up left, right, and center. Tarek Skubal was one of them, but also Clayton Kershaw was mic'd up, which I freaking loved it. I was watching this live. I caught bits and pieces of the game. I was coming in and out, in and out, in and out. I had a bunch of stuff going on lately, but it was pretty great. He gets the kind of legendary invite to the All-Star game. I mean, he would tell you that he probably didn't pitch enough to make it this year, but he does deserve it. I think it's a great celebration of him. Went out there, he had a good time. He said, I'm going to try to throw cheese. Was worried about giving a homer to Cal Raleigh, but there was one exchange that I loved more than anything. Kershaw was probably on his last hitter. He goes, what do you want, Smoltzy? And Smoltz goes, cut her in. And he tried to quickly say slide her in. And as he's delivering, he goes, I don't throw a cutter, Smoltzy. And I just was like, this is so funny, because this is exact. And then he just spiked it, because in our heads, it was a perfect example as a pitcher, that if there's any confusion up here, even if it's just joking around and someone says something, the semantics are wrong, if you're not locked in, you automatically, it is an automatic abort, eject system where you just throw the ball nowhere there's zone so you can't get crushed because you're not committed. It was awesome. So Adam Ottavino does this a lot, or he talked about doing a lot in his career. I did it a few times too. You're in the middle of a pitch, you're about to throw it, and you were kind of wishy-washy on what you wanted to throw. And then in the middle of your delivery, you just remember, or you decide that, no, I don't want to throw this, so you just abort. And you just throw it off into the dugout, or just get rid of the ball and make sure it can't be hit. This chapstick break has been brought to you by Trevor. I don't have a sponsor, but it's great. Trying to keep my lips being so chapped these days. All right, so I loved it. I thought it was great. I like miking up pitchers in the All-Star game. I don't know about miking up shortstops anymore because we keep seeing errors. But maybe pitchers. Pitchers talking through what they want to do. Oh, give me more of that. All right? Well done, Clayton. Well done! All right, let's move on. Let's continue to talk a little bit about the All-Star game, because there's some conversations happening on the internet, which is, I don't know if you noticed, a lot of what kind of drives these conversations here on this channel. Let's talk a little bit about the All-Star game and what it's here for, because the spirit behind the All-Star game has changed dramatically in the last few years. So what is it for? All right. What is it for? So let me tell you why I think this conversation has been changing the last few years. Last year, Paul Skeens started the game with only 11 starts for the National League. He was the hot commodity. He was also throwing incredibly well. So that was a little bit he doesn't have quite as many innings as everyone else. There was other guys with 17, 18 starts. He only had 11, but it was at least kind of comparable, and he was so dominant that it made sense. but it was obviously very clearly to drive excitement. This year, though, about 2 days before the end of the first half, Jacob Misiorowski, the phenom from the Brewers, was announced to go to the All-Star game after 25 innings and 5 starts, which is a little bit more glaring. Some Phillies players were spoken about the decision. They were not happy about it. Trey Turner called it a joke. Nick Castellanos said it's starting to look like Savannah Bananas, banana ball. I mean, he's not on stilts. He might look like he's on stilts, but I don't think he's technically on stilts. But they believed, and I tend to agree, that by doing that, they are snubbing to their teammates Ranger Suarez and Christopher Sanchez, especially Christopher Sanchez, because he's throwing great again after making it last year. Which I tend to agree, that frustration, that what they're saying is, like, if we're not, are we rewarding the best players? Is that what this is for? Or are we going to start carving out more and more spots for guys that are throwing well, but also are very exciting to watch? Like, what is this game for, and what should we think if we're selected or if we're not selected, right? Is the conversation. And I think that if that's the definition of the game, or that is why people go, yeah, of course that should be frustrating, right? Do I think Jacob Misiorowski is a phenom and very excited to, like, it's not like he's a flash in the pan. It's very clearly he's a very good pitcher. I think it'd be fun, but at the expense of other guys who have, like, grinded it out and, like, deserve to go, especially because there's, like, contract incentives, which, by the way, the Phillies ended up giving, are going to give Christopher Sanchez his $50,000 incentive in his contract, because most contracts have those, by the way, even basic ones, arbitration contracts and such, have little lump sums that you get extra for going to the All-Star game from your team, right? Which is cool. And so some guys are like, I would like to have my incentive. I'm just, because I'm arbitrarily not getting to go. And shout out to the Phillies for actually doing that. I think that's pretty great. So if it's not completely merit-based, what is it? Is it an exhibition, or is it going to be a competition, or is it just publicity and, like, hype? Like, what do we want this to be? What do we feel like it's going to be? And how do we feel about those conclusions? So let's do a little bit of, let's go back and let's talk a little bit about the timeline, the advent of the Major League All-Star Game, where it comes from, and what it was about at the beginning. So the first ever All-Star Game was held on July 6, 1933 at Chicago's Comiskey Park. Classic. Lot of really, really, really famous players there. It was conceived as a one-time exhibition, so there was no plans to keep this going, to boost baseball's popularity during the Great Depression, right? So, like, hey, I know everyone's sad. We're going to watch some baseball. And it worked. It was wildly successful, and they kept it going after that. Through the 30s and 40s, the All-Star Game showcased the era's biggest stars and really dramatic moments. In 1934, Giants pitcher Carl Hubble famously struck out 5 future Hall of Famers in a row. Those Hall of Famers, you ask? Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, Jamie Foxx, Al Simmons, and Joe Cronin. That's crazy. And has yet to be done since. I can't imagine just starting with Babe Ruth to Lou Gehrig to Jamie Foxx. Like, at that point, you're having an out-of-body experience as a pitcher. I don't care who you are. You can be the greatest. You're like, I can't believe these are the greatest hitters ever. And 3 of them, they're all still widely considered some of the best hitters ever to this day. Then we go to the 1950s and the 1960s. The format and the competitive balance saw several changes. So, like, they started to make adjustments to make it more competitive or less competitive. This is where we started to tinker, okay? With this tinkering came the National League winning. They won 33 of 42 from 1950 to 1987. The National League was absolutely dominating, right? And they were messing around with all kinds of little voting, fans votes. Actually, in the first one, the fans could vote by submitting ballots from the newspaper, which is pretty cool. Tedious, but pretty cool. But we had a major controversy also erupt in 1957, ballot stuffing by the Cincinnati Reds fans. Ballot stuffing? What? Fan voting? Filling up the starting lineup? Never heard of that before. Ballot stuffing resulted in 7 Reds being elected to the NL starting lineup. So, like, 7 of their 9 players were started, which is, now you're just watching the Reds. The drama was at peak during that area. The 1960s alone saw 4 games go into extra innings, which is sick. in 1970 game ended with Pete Rose running over Ray Fosse to win it in the 12th, separating Ray Fosse's shoulder. And what Pete Rose said, that's the only way I know how to play. I don't care if it's an exhibition. Like, that's the only way I know how to grind this game out. And people seem to love that, except for probably Ray Fosse. I don't know if he enjoyed that too much. So it's pretty clear the game's had a long history of like drama. It's like a break, sure, but it's also like a lot of fun. You want to see the best talent playing against the best talent because you don't get to see that very regularly. And that was the point of the game. And then at some point, something changed, and there's a few things that started to be added, right? So in 1985, we had the first home run derby added. And this is our winner right here, which it's so funny. Dave Parker did it, got it, boom. Won the first ever in 1985. In 1991, we saw our first Fan Fest. 1999, we saw the first Futures game. In 2001, we saw the first Celebrity Softball game. All four of these things are still being done around the game. So now it's no longer just a game. It is a week of festivities. It is a festival, which I think is a great thing. I think generally more things that fans like, especially if like the game itself maybe isn't the number one thing, but they like to like meet players and want to bring young kids that don't really understand. Like, you're widening the range of people that can go and enjoy themselves. And if you can't afford a ticket to the game itself, which is usually the most expensive part of going there, you still have a lot of things you can do. You can still see players milling around. You still go to the red carpet, still do all kinds of fun stuff. And I think that is great. I think it's a positive trend. I think that is great. You know, a lot more people can enjoy the game than can just fit in the stadium. But the thinking that is fueling these changes, especially lately, has been increasingly clear. The MLB has a game in the middle of summer that is guaranteed to be sold out. There's no other major sports happening, really. The Stanley Cup is over, the NBA Finals are over, and we haven't gotten to OTAs yet for football. So it's baseball only. Also, there's no other baseball games competing either. So there's one game to watch. The eyeball funnel has never been more aligned. The planets are aligned for baseball. And so what can you do with that? Money. You can make lots of money, and you got to take advantage of that. And that is usually what is now going behind the thinking. And it's been happening more and more and more and more and more and more and more over time. Specifically, since the 2002 debacle, when Bud Selig ended a game in a tie because there were no more pitchers to throw. Both teams used 19 pitchers in 11 innings because they thought they weren't going to go into extra innings. So they ended the game in a tie. And in order to solve that problem, Bud Selig then made a rule that the winner of the All-Star game determines home field advantage in the World Series. That went till 2016 till who took over? Rob Manfred got rid of that immediately. Right? Immediately. It wasn't very popular. I would say that it had nothing to do with the World Series, the All-Star game. It just didn't have enough to do with it. Like, the guys playing the All-Star game weren't going to play in the, you know what I mean? Like, there's not enough players involved in both things to where they should be that closely linked. But that was his goal in order to make it more competitive, because he saw this trend of it becoming less and less competitive over time. But again, once you added all these extra events in, there's more stuff to do, the players are more tired, and they start to weigh, is this really rest or is this a lot of work? And that is something I heard a lot in clubhouses. It's a ton of work. It's a lot. You sign autographs for like 4 or 5 hours one of the days. Like, the game season's long, so guys are opting out more and more. We can't be focused so heavily on adding all this stuff for players to be involved in, and also wanting them to go out there and put it all out on the line. So we just, since 2002, that has slowly but surely gone away. And then Rob Manfred, by getting rid of that rule, has just given up on this being the thing at all. Now it's about how do we create an experience that people enjoy and will spend more money at, which isn't bad or good, but is real. So, got it. So, as players slowly over time have stopped associating like pride or competition with the game. They just have. Like, I know a lot of players that were like, you know what? I've been to 3 or 4 of them. Thank you for inviting me to All-Star. I'll still be an All-Star on my baseball reference page, but I don't need to go to the game. I don't need to do all the stuff. And if that means I don't get my pay, I don't get my pay for that. But like, some guys are making lots of money already, and it's not really maybe that's just not the most important thing to them. Maybe they need the break. Maybe they're working on some little injury thing. And most guys just say, I got a little nagging turf toe or something, and they want to take some time off. But it's just not competitive like it used to be anymore, and it's probably not going to come back. So a lot of people say the old way was better. A lot of people like this. I actually asked a question like, do you guys love, I did a poll probably 3 weeks ago. I was like, do you guys love the All-Star Game? Do you guys really look forward to watching it? And the majority of people said yes, which was a little bit surprising, maybe because I'm a cynical, annoying person sometimes, maybe because I'm apathetic at times, but that was good to see, and it seems like people are enjoying it the way that it is. I think there's a couple things that need to be tweaked, but I think overall the All-Star Game is a destination and people like to go. So I want to hear what you guys think. Let me know down in the comments. Let me know over in the chat, wherever you may be watching / listening to this, because do we prefer one or the other, or however it coalesces is the way I like it. And also let me know what your favorite parts of the festivities are, if you just watched it on TV, or if you were there, even better. I want to know what you like the most about being there, because at the end of the day, it is for the fans, it is for you. And if the things aren't being done the way that you want them done, in the words of Rob Manfred, we gotta listen to the fans. So we gotta make sure that's happening. So let me know. And that is mace-plaining, which I did not do the intro for. So actually, that's not mace-plaining. That was our, shut up, Trevor. Okay, thank you. All right, last little word from our sponsors here, and we are going to get into some more Mayday in just one moment. See you in a minute.
Ah, summer. We almost forgot what it feels like to play just because. But even summer needs backup. A little partner in the good kind of chaos. Someone to bring the kung fu kicks. Hiya! To train some dragons. Fly, young dragon rider, fly. The kind of fun that keeps the days going. That turns living rooms into playgrounds. And reminds us what our bodies and our hearts were made for. Play that moves you.
Tap in to get 20% off Next Playground, a $50 savings. Play over 45 games, including Fruit Ninja, Starry, and Home Run Heroes, Star Strikers. Once again, tap in to get 20% off of Next Playground. Thank you for sponsoring today's show. All right, let's move on to our mace-plaining segment. This is mace-plaining, and I did this recently. You guys hear that garbage truck? They tend to be here right in the middle of everything all the time, so I apologize if you can hear that. Mace-plaining. I made a bunch of predictions at the beginning of the year. We're going to look back, and we're going to check, am I hitting on them, or am I missing on them? So, we'll see what we got. Sorry, I'm distracted by that garbage truck that's literally right outside my door. Wednesdays, that's why we don't usually do it on this day. All right, so we did my predictions, and then we have, I had some bold takes, and we will be doing that going into hour 2 of the show. So, biggest surprises, biggest disappointments, and then all of the awards. Prepare to get blown away. So first up, we have biggest surprises so far in the season, looking back at the first half. These 3 gentlemen, I'm going to give a shout out, and there are quite a few guys out there that are doing well, but biggest surprise, we have Pete Crow Armstrong with the Reds. He is an all-star, hitting .265, 25 home runs and 71 RBIs, which is astronomically above his career averages so far. A little shout out to Chris Flexen, a guy who was back against the ropes, really just trying to find a job, and has been really effective out of the bullpen for the Cubs. Now, he is greatly overperforming a lot of his peripheral stats. I hope he continues to work within that area, at least for the whole year. You want to get through a whole year. But he has a 1.47 and a .93 whip. And he has been a bright spot for their bullpen. And a little bit of love for Ramon Laureano joining the Baltimore Orioles. He has been one of the few bright spots over there this year, hitting .284 with 11 home runs, 35 RBIs, and it was a little bit of like a throwaway signing for them. And he's been very good. He's a good defensive outfielder. He's got a great arm, and he plays hard. He's got energy. I can attest to that. He's a great dude. And he just loves to talk hitting. He loves the game, and it's good to see him doing well as well. The biggest disappointments aren't necessarily maybe a biggest disappointment in the scope of the world, and I also want to hear you guys' feedback on this because I'm sure every team has their biggest disappointments, but a couple interesting ones that I think guys who are notoriously so good and they just haven't been, Mookie Betts and the San Francisco Giants version of Rafael Devers. Mookie Betts is hitting 244 with 11 home runs and 45 RBIs, which hilariously is a little bit better than Laureano, but like, those aren't Mookie Betts numbers. That's just pretty good, right? I think he would say that, and that's considered underperforming in his mind. But yeah, that's a little lackluster, more lackluster than I've really ever seen from Mookie. So it's interesting to see what he'll do in the second half. But he's been around for a while, man. That's what happens. And for Rafi, 25 games with the Giants, he's hitting 202 with 2 home runs, 10 RBIs, and a 656 OPS. Hasn't quite found his footing there, and probably not the greatest look on the planet to not come out super hot. So let me know again in the comments, who are your biggest disappointments? Who are your biggest surprises? Because I'm sure there's a lot of guys I'm missing. I could have been sitting here talking forever, but we have time limits. This is a live show. So got to make sure that I'm on top of that stuff. All right, let's go. Who did I guess the awards winners would be at the end of the year? And if the season ended right now, who I think they would be. So we're going to go my pre-predictions and then how I think that would change and if I was right at all. So for AL Rookie of the Year, my first guess was Christian Campbell, who has recently been sent down to AAA, with Jackson Jobe, who has been hurt, but he's been okay. He's been fine, and he could still be in the running if he comes back healthy. But like, it's not out on these two guys, but they've just been they've had their struggles, and they haven't been as electric as I thought they would be. And right now, my AL Rookie of the Year is Jacob Wilson, all-star, never walks, never strikes out. Looks like he's playing wiffle ball, but he's having a good time, and the guy can hit, man. Defense notwithstanding, the guy can hit, and he right now is my AL Rookie of the Year. In the NL, I thought we were going to have a Roki Sasaki followed by Bubba Chandler. Now, this one was a big whiff, okay? Roki has struggled at the beginning of his career, and now he is hurt potentially for the rest of the year. Bubba Chandler has yet to make his big league debut. So I don't think I'm going to be right about those two. So, but in the NL, who would I give it to? A guy I was just talking about, Gumby, The Miz, Jacob Mizrachi. Also, this picture, just look how jacked he is, dude. Just jacked. 6'7", 115. Pure fury. Jacob Mizrachi. He's been incredible. If he keeps going the way he's going, say he stays healthy for the rest of the year, they're just going to give it to him. But he needs to stay healthy, and he needs to throw 20-plus starts. He needs to throw 15 starts the second half. It just needs to happen. So hopefully he does, and hopefully that's what we get. AL Reliever of the Year, my guess was Mason Miller, though he has been very good, and he's striking out about 17 per 9. The ERA is greatly inflated, both from a couple, he's had 2 season killers. Like, he's given up 9 runs in 2 innings, which that'll kill you as a closer. And he also has to pitch in Sacramento, which is not fair to anybody, including the away team. So not quite there. If I had to guess, and right now, if it ended and the playoffs happened or whatever, it would likely be Andres Munoz. I think there's a bunch of other guys that can be considered for this, but he's up there, like Josh Hader. It's going to be a closer probably, but he's up there in saves. He might lead in saves, actually. And he didn't give up a run for 20 outings into the year. So he's been incredible for the Mariners, and he is probably my guy. On the NL side, I guessed Justin Martinez. Justin Martinez has been hurt for a lot of time. He signed a contract before the season started, a little team-friendly guy for Arizona. I think he's got a bright future, but he just hasn't been healthy, throwing enough, and it's just not him. It's not him. I was wrong. I would say probably up there, and again, the NL's got a ton of guys that are right in this area, healthily, whatever, but for me, it's Edwin Diaz, man. He's having a season pretty close to 2022, and I think he's going a little bit under the radar because the Mets have been good, at least for me. I'm sure Mets fans are like, we know. What do you mean? But Edwin Diaz he's got a 1.5 ERA, he's saving all the games, he's throwing really, really well, he's having a good time, and he was made another All-Star. But I would say a guy who deserves some flowers and isn't a closer is the setup man for the Giants. One of the setup men, anyways, Randy Rodriguez. This guy's filthy. And if you don't know about Randy Rodriguez, go look it up. He's been good for a while. So, honorable mention to Randy Rodriguez. He is in the running. He's in the running. Adrian Morejon is also another guy I think that could be thrown into that conversation. Okay? Now let's talk about Cy Young's. AL. I'd Cole Ragans because it was different, right? I thought he was going to take one more step forward. I mean, Nasty, he's been solid like he is, but hasn't really turned into the crazy ace. And unfortunately, Tarek Skubal has been better than he was last year somehow. So I think this year is Tarek Skubal. I think Tarek Skubal is now the front runner, at least in the AL side, for the Cy Young currently. So I was close, finally, on something. But I don't think people are that close to him right now. He's been just absolutely ridiculous. He's been absolutely redonk. So Tarek Skubal. In the NL side, my guess is Paul Skeens and Hunter Green. Now, before Hunter Green got hurt, dude, he might have been ahead of Paul. Hunter Green was right there. If he weren't hurt, I would say these guys would still be top 5, right? I think Skeens is very, very close. I think it's like 1A and 1B, but I got to give some flowers to a guy who hasn't won one and probably should have won one by now. Right now, it's Zach Wheeler. He's got just an edge on everything with Paul Skeens a little bit. He's thrown more innings somehow. He struck out more guys. He's given up less hits somehow. Like, the year that Skeens is having is credible. Zach Wheeler's been a little bit better for a team that's better. So I will give the edge to him. And honestly, he hasn't won one yet. And Skeens is going to win. If he continues to be this good for 10 years, he's going to win like 7. So I think we need to give Zach Wheeler his look. Zach Wheeler his looks. And honorable mention, obviously, I think Paul Skeens is right behind him. So it's anyone's game at this point. Now, real quickly, let's hit the MVPs. AL MVP, my guess was Bobby Witt Jr. He's been solid, not MVP yet. And sorry, Mariners fan, and sorry for the writers over in the writers' room, guys, but I changed my mind. It's Aaron Judge. I just don't know how you don't give it to him. He's just too good. He's just too good. And his batting average is still 100 points. Like, if his batting average were 60 points above number 2, it'd be better. But honorable mention, obviously, right behind him, Cal Raleigh. And then he just won the home run derby, too. So who knows? Maybe he goes even more. But if it ends up Aaron Judge is like 230 and Cal Raleigh's hitting like 285, or 330 and 285, now we're cooking. And also, Cal Raleigh has the most important stat between these two guys, more stolen bases. Okay, and then in the NL, my MVP guess was going to be Juan Soto. Now, he is back into that top 10 conversation, even though he didn't make the All-Star team. He's been very, very, very good lately. Very good. Actually insane. He's been the best hitter in the league for last month. But now, it's Shohei Ohtani. God, that picture's so tough. I love it. I love this picture so much. I think it's awesome. So, Shohei Ohtani. Shohei Ohtani's probably our NL MVP at this moment. He's just the best hitter in the league. And he's also pitching whenever he wants. Just to add a little bit more value. I don't know. No big deal. Whatever. Rolls out of bed. Best player on the planet. Okay, and then finally we have the playoffs. We have the seeding. This is what my guesses were playoff seeding before. Rangers, Red Sox, Guardians, Orioles, Tigers, and Astros. And on the other side, Dodgers, Phillies, Brewers, Mets, D-backs, and Braves. Now, I got 7 of the 12 right, which I don't know if that's great. I think that's just average. But right now, this is what it'd be if the season ended right now. We have Dodgers. I don't know why I did this all formatted differently. I was in a hurry. Dodgers, Cubs, Phillies, Brewers, weird. They're sneaking again. Mets and Padres and Detroit, Houston, Toronto, New York, Boston, and Seattle on the other side. This is how I had the playoffs playing out. Phillies versus Boston. And I ended up having the Phillies winning the whole thing, even though they're not showing up here for some reason. My guess was Phillies win the World Series this year. But I have amended my stance because Chicago Cubs have joined. And if I were to guess, based on the people I just showed you, who would come out on top of that bracket right now with how everyone is playing, I think the Cubs would end up taking down the Boston Red Sox, who are on a 10-game heater going in the playoffs. That would be a great spot. So I'm talking about the Boston Red Sox being the hottest team on the planet and the Cubs just being a solid team. I think at the end they would end, but I think the Cubs took it for the first time since 2016. I know, hot take. That's just my guess now. I'm amending it from there. So you can yell at me all you want, and I'll take it, but that doesn't mean I'm wrong. Let me know. I can't wait to hear what you guys all think of these things. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to continue on with our bold predictions going into hour 2 over on Trevor May Baseball. So anyone who is with us in foul territory right now, I'll see you guys over there. Twitch, you hold steady, and I'll see you in 2 minutes because I need to drink some water. So 2 minutes, BRB.